is Big TV. Brought to you by Infront. GoInfront.com.
And though I'm not predicting this by any means in Ukraine, I think things will work out. It will be bumpy. We have to recall how little it took for Yugoslavia to descend into the most horrific human tragedy that you could possibly imagine on European soil, right? It just seems impossible that these things can happen in Europe, but anything is possible, even though it's unlikely, highly unlikely anything like that would happen in Ukraine. We have to remember that it's possible. So those are the kind of the premises, if you want to say that. Apart from that, from a market standpoint, Ukraine doesn't really matter that much. It's just not an economic driver. So fine, that's great. But why do the markets react? Well, we react because we have memories of Cold Wars, and it's a very different setup these days. But we have these memories, and we have knee-jerk reactions, and people have very, very strong feelings about the Russians in that part of the world, and most of them are not good.
Yeah.
So we jump immediately. I mean, psychologically, this is how we tend to work. We see a situation, we look in the rearview mirror for the closest thing to us that resembles what we're looking at today, and we overstate the parallel.
Yeah.
So in this case, it's the Cold War.
Yeah, and
right?
Stalin.
Not going
There's
back
a lot
into a
of
Cold
Stalin
War. It's a
things.
very different setup.
Yeah.
Not only have the countries in that part of the world moved a lot more towards the West and understand the West better, we also have a much more transparent world than has ever been the case. So you can't get away with the kind of things that we got away before. If we were to have a World War II kind of thing again today, to draw a parallel, it would be much more difficult to get the United States involved because there would be Twitter and there would be Facebook and there'd be people saying, why are we getting involved in this war, right? So it's just a different world from that perspective. And the third thing is Russia's a declining empire, if you want to call it an empire. And their quest is to return the glory that they once had and overcome the humiliation that they had to undergo after the end of the previous Cold War. But it's not the state that it once was, anything close to that. And they don't have the economic wherewithal really to kind of take over Ukraine and invest the way they would have to invest to maintain it. Secondly, the costs externally are much greater because the rest of the world can see what's going on. The propaganda curtain that used to be such an effective tool of the East just doesn't work anymore, on the inside or on the outside. So the ability for people outside to impose economic costs is greater, right? So in the long game, Russia is going to lose. There's no doubt about this. But in the short game, the intensity of their desire to hang on to what is in their minds theirs, right, the Crimea in particular, is just so much greater than ours that militarily they can kind of do whatever they want. They're going to face costs down the road if they go too far, but they can do whatever they want. So in the short game, Putin has to have the advantage. In the long game, I think he's at a very strong disadvantage. How does that matter for markets? Well, it doesn't a whole lot, except that, as I said before, in the short term, markets are driven by psychology and positioning. Yeah. And if you look at using S&P as a proxy for risk, the rebound we had at the beginning of February went straight up, really, with maybe 2 down days until yesterday.
Yeah.
So we were ripe for kind of overbought, ready for a shakeout, and those kinds of things. So the combination of drawing a parallel to dramatic things in the past that might not really apply well today, and the overbought conditions lead to the kind of reactions that we get, and that's where we are. Emerging markets have longer-term issues, but they have nothing really to do with Ukraine per se.
This is Big TV. Brought to you by Infront. GoInfront.com.